War Thunder is a weird place. There are tons of high experience players and tons of low experience players, with few in between. In this video, I'll be briefly going over, only semi-seriously, the differences that one can expect between playing at top and at bottom tiers. For the purposes of this video, when I say top tier, I'm referencing to basically the two top tiers available in that game mode, just as I refer to bottom tier as being reserved through essentially tier 2. But that said, let's not waste any time, so let's get into the video. As I said in the intro, we are at a weird place in War Thunder's history because now more than ever, top tier is essentially bottom tier. Coincidentally, I have a video going over this, but regardless, what I mean is that if you play at high BR, you are likely going to be able to click on a good portion of the people in that match and see that they are relatively new or low level players who simply purchase their way into top tiers, and then become one death leavers as they leave a match after dying once because they have no backups or other competent vehicles in their lineup. Actually, that's point number one right there. Top tier has a crazy amount of one death leavers, whereas bottom tier tends to have far more people that will stay the entire match and go through numerous vehicles, at least in ground and naval, and of course air AB, as air RB is a single death game mode regardless of the tier or BR that you're playing. I'd say that more than any other factor, high BR matches are decided by which team has more of these one death leavers. If one team has 3 people leaving in the first minute because they rage quit after being legitimately killed by an enemy, and of course most people are not killed by cheaters no matter what you say, and the other team has 1 person or no one leaving, the team with fewer leavers will be at a tremendous advantage. At bottom tier, you just don't see this nearly as much, and thus why, in my opinion, bottom tier can be much less stressful. Secondly, and this has to do with what I basically just said, top tier is, in my opinion at least, substantially more serious than bottom tier, with people taking the game mode much more seriously, even in chat. Bottom tier is a free-for-all of seal clubbers and experienced players, and people kind of in between. People crack jokes and the other team doesn't pop a vein because of it in bottom tier. Top tier, on the other hand, has a ton of wallet warriors, people who paid for a vehicle with their mother's credit card, people paranoid about cheaters that don't exist, and people who take pixel vehicles far too seriously, and too often they flip out when they die or someone just so happens to be a troll. While stakes are of course higher at top tier, with things like repair cost and armament cost being a bit higher at top tier compared to low BR, it is still a video game. Be like the bottom tier people and relax, dude. Now with that said, the third way top tier is different is that top tier has an insane amount of things that you have to mind in order to effectively play. For example, in air battles you have a ton of different types of missiles with different capabilities, radar warning receivers, radars and radar modes, ballistics computers, countermeasures, and much more. Whereas in low tier, you have planes and guns. In top tier ground battles, you have to worry if a tank has thermals, what gen those thermals are, the types of rounds that those tanks carry, their power to weight ratio, how much armor they have and where it is, smoke grenades, having to deal with helicopters, having to deal with base campers, which are far more common at top tier, at least in my experience, dealing with vehicles that are definitely or are borderline pay to win, commander sites, and map placement. Whereas bottom tier is pretty much just picking the right type of ammo, hitting a flat surface on the enemy tank to kill it, and then moving on. Ships are pretty much the same except that it scales up rather than widens, if that makes any sense. This coincidentally is one of the reasons why I recommend low experienced players wait a little bit before buying their way into top tier. There are so many things that you have to be mindful of at top tier that just do not exist in bottom tier matches. Fourth, top tier costs a ton of money, and of course, sanity. If I haven't already mentioned it, maintaining a top tier vehicle is costly, with, for example, an M1 Abrams costing about 7,673 SL to repair in ground RB, while an M22 Locust costs 422 SL to repair. In much the same way, although to a greater extent, air battles as well as naval battles cost a ton to repair and even to rearm at top tier, with a MiG-29 in the Russian air tech tree costing 14,990 SL to repair compared to the I-16 Type 10 that costs a mere 721 SL to repair. Let's not even get into battleships and bombers because those take it to another level entirely. Regardless, top tier is a money pit for inexperienced and unlucky players, and bottom tiers tend to be a nice way to play and not have to worry about losing everything that you have in game. The only downside is that rewards in top tier are much higher compared to those in low tier, but I still say that low tier is substantially less likely to put you in a hole compared to top tier. Now finally, for the fifth way top and bottom tiers are different. Top tier takes months or even up to a year or longer in order to grind through an entirety of a tech tree without major premium usage, whereas you could probably grind through the bottom tier of numerous tech trees and nations within a week or two. After reaching the bottom of a tech tree or two, it becomes substantially easier, as you will likely be much better at War Thunder by that point, and will also have a better idea of how to effectively grind, which I also have videos on if you guys want to watch. But it still takes a hell of a long time to get there the first time around. They say that earning your first $1 million is always the toughest, and it's no different with grinding through your first entire tech tree. On somewhat of a side note, it is crazy how expensive top tier is compared to lower tier when it comes to RP. This is shown very clearly by the fact that, for example, the Leopard 2A6 currently costs 390,000 RP in order to unlock, whereas the entirety of rank 1 of the German ground tech tree, meaning every single tank that currently costs RP, costs a total of 69,900 RP to unlock. That means that it costs only about 18% of the RP cost of a single top tier vehicle to unlock well over a dozen rank 1 vehicles that are extremely fun to play. Just something to consider. Besides, who doesn't love zipping around a map with the tank that can kill or be killed by anything, and not having a care in the world? Whereas in top tier, you'll be killed by sweaty man-children that either rage quit or unironically think that they could be a fighter pilot or a tank crewman, despite their many personality faults, as well as other things that we don't have to discuss here in this video. But with that being said, that about ends this video. This video is not to say that top tier and bottom tier are only different through these 5 ways, as there are many more ways, but I felt that these were fairly worthwhile to put on this list while again being somewhat not serious. If you have other ways that they are different, comment below. I, along with everyone else, will be very interested to read your thoughts on how, again, top and bottom tier are so different. That being said, thank you all so much for watching. Please, if you'd like, consider subscribing, consider liking this video, and again, consider leaving a comment to let people know your experience between top and bottom tier, how they are so different, because, of course, we all want to read it. That being said, thanks again, guys, and I will see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.